quiet after war. When James came home, he expected relief. He expected sleep, laughter, normalcy, but instead he found silence. That is how he passed the time in the night, alone in a tiny apartment, just him and the echoes. A letter from the VA, unopened. Bills piling up, unopened. Pictures of a life before the war, before the injury, before the pain took root. James was diagnosed with PTSD and other ailments, but it wasn't the mental health issues that haunted him. It was what he could not see, could not stop remembering. The faces of friends, lost in the fire, the screams, so loud in his head, but never heard by anyone else. He tried therapy, didn't talk much. He tried prayer, but gave up when nothing changed. Mostly, he drank and he sat, staring at walls that didn't blink and ceilings that never offered answers. His wife left 6 months after he came back. She said he wasn't himself anymore. She wasn't wrong. James stopped answering the phone, stopped shaving, stopped trying. At night, he'd dream he was still in combat, bullets flying, dust in his mouth. But in the dream, he couldn't move, couldn't speak. He'd wake up screaming, so loud it startled even him. But no one was there, no one except the whisper. One night, with a bottle in his lap and the bridge lights glowing red in the fog, he heard it. Clear, firm, but not angry. "I'm not finished with you." He looked around, nothing but the wind. He cried for the first time in 2 years, not because he was afraid, but because someone still saw him, not as broken, but as waiting. That was the first night he didn't drink himself to sleep. The first night he left the bridge and went home. The whisper stayed with him. Every night, every morning. He didn't know it yet. But that whisper was the beginning of something beautiful. The silence after battle was slowly being replaced by peace. Welcome back, friend. Let's breathe together. Changed the whisper, the one that pulled him back from the edge. It stayed, not like a loud voice, not like thunder or command. No, it was softer than that. It was steady. It was patient. He started waking up early again, out of habit at first. No reason, but each dawn felt a little lighter. The bottle on the nightstand stayed full. The pills gathered dust. He went walking, slowly, carefully, with his cane tapping rhythmically. And every step, that whisper followed. "You're not forgotten. You were made for more." James didn't understand. He didn't believe in miracles, not after everything. But the whisper didn't argue, it waited. One morning, he wandered into an old church, not on purpose. He thought it was a food pantry, but the door was open and it was warm inside. He sat in the last pew. No one noticed him. He liked that. The air smelled like old wood and melted wax. There was a candle burning near the altar. He stared at it, mesmerized. A soft voice began to read from the pulpit. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." James didn't cry. Not that day, but something opened, cracked, quietly, like sunlight through a blindfold. He kept coming back, day after day. He didn't talk to anyone. He just listened. He'd never heard scripture like this before. Not like a rule book, but like a rescue. The whisper. It grew louder in that place. Still soft, but now full of life. It wasn't just a whisper anymore. It was a presence. One day, after sitting in that same pew for weeks, he whispered back, "Okay, I give up. I'm yours." He gave his life to Jesus Christ, not with fireworks, not with a choir, but with a whisper in the silence. And for the first time since the war, James slept through the night, not because the nightmares were gone, but because he wasn't facing them alone anymore. The healing was only beginning. Good evening, friend. Are you cozy? Let's settle in together. When James gave his life to Jesus, he didn't magically become whole. He still limped, still had bad days, still missed people and moments that would never come back. But now, there was peace in the pain, purpose in the silence. The church pastor gave him a small notebook. "Write down what you're thankful for," he said. At first, James thought it was dumb, but he did it anyway. Each morning, one thing, then two, then five. Soon, he filled the whole book, and something strange happened. He smiled again. One day, a young vet sat beside him after service. Said he heard James used to be somebody. James chuckled. "I used to run security operations in the field," he said. "Now I run to the microwave in my kitchen." The young man didn't laugh. He said, "You ever think of starting something, for guys like us?" That night, James prayed about it and the whisper returned. "Start small, but start." He opened his old laptop, slow, dusty, but still alive. He built a website for veterans, nothing fancy, just a blog, a mission, a voice. He called it Iron Faith, a place for broken soldiers to find strength in the one who heals all wounds. At first, nobody came, but James kept posting stories, scriptures, resources for housing, jobs, recovery, and eventually someone clicked, then shared, then donated, then offered him a contract to train new veteran advocates. James didn't see it coming. He just kept showing up every day, one step, one whisper at a time. Before long, he was invited to speak at shelters, churches, online forums. His story, his whisper, was moving people. He hired 2 more vets, then 4. He started a podcast, quiet and raw, just like him. And then the day came. He looked at his bank account and gasped. He was a millionaire, not because he chased money, but because he chased purpose. God had taken the ashes of his life and built something beautiful. James stared at the screen that day and cried, not for the money, but for the man he used to be, and the man grace had shaped him into. But this journey, it wasn't over yet. Success would bring new challenges, and an old enemy would return. But this time, James wouldn't face it alone. Welcome back. Tonight, we meet the dark again. Even after healing, that enemy still lurks, not outside, but within. James had built something meaningful. His blog, Iron Faith, was reaching thousands of veterans. With each post, he offered not just stories, but scripture, truth, and hope. He was invited to speak on podcasts, to write guest articles for ministries. Every email, every message reminded him why he started. You helped me make it through the night. Your post saved my marriage. You gave me faith again. But then came the silence. Again, one morning, James couldn't bring himself to write. The screen stared back at him, blank. His hands trembled on the keys. Old feelings crept in. He stopped answering emails, stopped opening his Bible. He withdrew, not from the world, but from God. He questioned everything. Why now, Lord? Why again? Haven't I done enough? Nightmares returned, memories sharpened, and the whisper, the one that once saved him, seemed distant. He nearly shut the blog down. For a week, he didn't touch his laptop, didn't open the devotional on his desk, didn't speak to anyone. But one night, while rummaging through old notes, he found a printed comment from a reader. Your pain gave my pain purpose. Stopped him. He broke. He fell to his knees and wept like a child. And in the weeping, the whisper returned. I never asked you to be perfect. I asked you to be present. James opened his laptop, and instead of teaching, he told the truth. I'm struggling again, but I know who my refuge is. The post went viral, not because it was polished, but because it was real. This is the end, but also the beginning. After facing the darkness again, James surrendered more deeply than ever before. His blog, Iron Faith, evolved. He brought on contributors, veterans with stories like his. He launched a podcast, His Whisper, telling stories of resilience and redemption. And he started leading small groups for men who'd lost their way. The beauty wasn't in the success. It was in the brokenness. Each post, each testimony was a piece of the crown God was forming from the ashes. 1 year later, James was invited to speak at a national men's conference. He stood there, quiet, composed, with no stage theatrics, just a whisper. I'm not a preacher. I'm just a man who nearly gave up. But the King never let me go. That night, after the applause faded, James stood under the stars. He whispered, "Thank you. Not for fame, not for fortune, but for faith. Because he'd learned God doesn't waste our pain. He weaves it into purpose. And as he walked away, the wind stirred the leaves like a soft applause. And James knew he was still the king's child. Thank you for spending this time with me, for listening, for feeling, for remembering. If James's story touched your heart, please consider subscribing so you don't miss more whispered journeys like this one. You are not your past. You are not forgotten. You are still the king's child. Tap like if this brought you peace. Leave a comment if you've walked a similar road or if you just need prayer. We're listening. Until next time, sleep well, walk in grace, and never forget